I know if I want anyone to be voicing my child's toy, it's gotta be the same voice as the Joker.
Why don't you tell me someone is loving you? 'Cause you're my girl. Some say it's no longer true. They're saying some slick continental dude.
Andy receives an early birthday present from his mother. It's a returned buddy doll that she has given him. And this one seems to be very unique. But as time goes by, Andy realizes it's unique in ways that can be dangerous. Child's Play 2019 is a remake of the original, and to be honest, it was more amazing than I thought it would be. There was a great balance between horror and humor in this movie. Something that horror comedies often struggle with is finding a way of really balancing things out, but also using the horror and comedy in a way that strengthens the entire film. In this case, the humor helped give a different feel from the original and was used to build up characters' relationships. In some ironic way, it's the contrast between the horror and the humor that makes it darker, and its ability to understand where the borders of these two genres are and exploit it that actually makes the film surprisingly intellectual in its use of these properties. For example, let me show you a scene that I have poorly reenacted, where I go over one of my favorite moments from the movie. In this scene, Andy wakes up in his bedroom and walks out of the hall. The camera is focused on Andy the whole time, but there's something out of the corner of your eye that you notice on Andy's dresser. Andy doesn't notice this at first, but neither does the audience, and it's only at a second glance that you realize that there is something made from human body parts on that dresser. And it's this double take that goes on in the film, where Andy comes rushing back in order to see what was really there and react to it. That is both comical, but it's also a very natural reaction. If this was done with something ridiculous, then it would be funny, but because it's done with something gruesome, it's horrific. And this is the kind of feel you get throughout the entirety of the film, that you can be laughing at one moment, cringing or horrified at the next, and then there are other moments where you don't know how to feel. You're kind of torn between wanting to laugh and wanting to scream. And I like that. I like how it's really testing what you like and how you're going to react to something. I also have to admit that the effects were all solid. You know there's going to be a lot of CGI in the film, but the filmmakers made it harder to tell when. Of course, part of this was because the film was shot in such darkness in those scenes that it was very difficult to tell what was going on with Chucky. When the film isn't shrouded in darkness, it's actually very bright, colorful, and has an artistic touch to its environment. And even in some of these darker moments, you can really see how the contrast and light is making the scenes pop. There's kind of a double-edged sword being used here, but I'll allow it considering the film still manages to find some beauty in this darkness. A big improvement from the original is Andy and Chucky having a strong relationship that is used to great effect, where in the original there was just sort of a need that Chucky had for Andy to achieve his own goals. Here, it feels like there's a mutual relationship and actual bonding and emotion between them. While Chucky may be an artificial intelligence, this is... I just realized I never actually mentioned that in this one, Chucky is not possessed by a serial killer, but is instead a reprogrammed buddy doll that does not have the safeguards that prevents it from doing very dangerous things. It feels like Chucky is developing artificial emotions, and through his interactions with Andy, Andy gets emotionally attached as well. And I can understand that, because Chucky really was the first friend he had, and was the reason he started making friends with other people. So I can understand that, but also there's a personal connection where Chucky understands what's been going on in Andy's life. He doesn't fully understand, but he knows what's going on, and Chucky is still trying to help Andy. And the innocence in which he's doing these things is both shocking and disturbing. I really feel myself getting attached to Chucky because he doesn't understand what he's doing is wrong. He's doing this because it's all he knows. And it's through his interactions with Andy and his friends that he begins picking up on these really bad things. Like after watching horror films or seeing some of the things that the kids want him to do, he's thinking, this is acceptable, this is fun, and not really understanding the differences between fun and danger. There are plenty of likable characters that I genuinely want to see live. Beyond just Andy, there is the cop and his mother that I really do like. I like Andy's friends. I have trouble remembering names, but this is kind of what I deal with every film, so it's not this one in particular that the characters are less memorable. That's just how it is for me with everything. So don't think that they're not good characters. They are great characters and well written. They feel natural and feel like they're not just there to fill a token character whatever. They actually have a purpose, and I do enjoy seeing them. There's also a lot of inventive kills that have been used throughout this film, which utilize Chucky's ability to interact with other Caslin products, as he is given the ability to control them like a central hub with administrative privileges, but even has the power to control other buddy dolls. There are some things that I do not like about this, though. For one, I think that the film could have had a unique strength to it if the entire opening in Vietnam was completely removed. I know some people would say, well, this would remove the whole scene where we find out how Chucky was programmed to be like this. But for me, I kind of like the mystery of, if that entire scene was removed, you would never know that this was a reprogrammed doll. There's a bit of a mystery behind it where all you know about Chucky is he was returned and he's got glowing red eyes for some reason. Now, saying he's just defective is interesting, but it kind of makes the mystery of him a bit more intriguing. Though, that's more of a minor complaint compared to other things, like some of the safety features in Caslin products that can be just casually turned off. Some safety features that should never have an off switch to begin with, like seat belts. But to be fair, those are kind of nitpicks. And in the overall scheme of things, this achieved a lot more than I was expecting it to. Well, there is one pretty big gripe that I have, and it's specifically to do with the appearance of Buddy, the Buddy doll. Faces just are too creepy looking for my liking. I know that it's a horror film, but I also understand that you have to buy that this is going to be a product that kids are going to have in their house, and people don't mind having a creepy looking doll in their home. Looking at early artwork of the film, it seemed like the face of Buddy was going to be different. It was going to be a face that was further in and had softer features, but this newer one that becomes Chucky is wider and the facial features are sharper. I understand that you can want to make something creepier and look different from its original, but there are ways of doing that without looking like this. With all honesty, I originally thought that this new version of Chucky lacked personality compared to the original. Because when you think of the concept, you start with the original that has a serial killer that implants his soul into a child's toy. That concept is both scary, but it also means that there is a fully developed personality within Chucky. A serial killer whose motives at first are unknown, but then you also find out that he's got a personality and techniques that he'll use that you discover as the films go on, which helped add to its longevity. But when I looked at this new one, we're just talking about a reprogrammed, malfunctioning doll. In concept, that's not very scary at all, until I thought about it further, and that's a drastic understatement, because this is an artificial child's companion turned homicidal stalker, just because of his interactions with others and that he doesn't have the safeguards he should. That's actually more terrifying. The idea that an environment can turn even a child's toy into a serial killer, and an obsessed one at that. That is both very telling of our society and horrifying in its concept. It's also more interesting because when I was originally thinking that this was a doll that his personality was gradually being created, where it was developing over the film, now I'm thinking, okay, so maybe Charles Lee Ray, I think that's who the original Chucky was, his personality was consistent throughout, and we've got one that's gradually being created. I thought that would mean that the original would have less personality, but now that I'm thinking about it, because we understand how Chucky's personality developed, we understand him better. So the original may have a complete personality, but it takes several movies to really get a grasp on it. And in this one, we're seeing it evolve, which is far more interesting from a storytelling perspective, and does help add some sympathy to Chucky, which is something we didn't have in the original. So I have to applaud the filmmakers on that, because they did a fantastic job. And I'd have to say that this was surprisingly amazing as a film goes. And I give it a 9.5 out of 10. So, if you want to see Child's Play, go out and see it. I highly recommend this one because it is very unique. It is not just following in the footsteps of the original. It is a phenomenal remake, and I would even dare to say that it's better than the original in many respects. So, have a great night, and I will see you in the next one.